chapter is entitled Pumsavana Ritualistic Ceremony. Text number 6.
7 through 9.
Text number 7, 8, and 9.
What is
Okay.
it? Can you repeat it?
Chapter 19, text number 7, 8, and 9. We're starting almost 10 minutes late. We're just going to read translation. We have so many others, okay? Translation, text number 7. My Lord Vishnu, full in 6 opulences, you are the best of all enjoyers and the most powerful. A husband of Mother Lakshmi, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are accompanied by many associates, such as Vivaksena. I offer all the paraphernalia for worshipping you. One should chant this mantra every day with great attention while worshipping Lord Vishnu with all paraphernalia, such as water for washing his feet, hands, and mouth, and water for his bath. One must offer him various presentations for his worship, such as garments, a sacred thread, ornaments, scents, flowers, incense, and lamps. Text number 8. Shukadev Goswami continued. After worshipping the Lord with all paraphernalia mentioned above, one should chant the following mantra while offering 12 oblations of ghee on the sacred fire. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Maha Vibhuti Prateye Svaha. And then text 9. If one desires all opulences, his duty is to daily worship Lord Vishnu with his wife, Lakshmi. With great devotion, one should worship him according to the above-mentioned process. Lord Vishnu and the goddess of fortune are immensely powerful combinations. They are the bestowers of all benedictions and the sources of all good fortune. Therefore, the duty of everyone is to worship Lakshmi Narayan. Srila Prabhupada's purport is Divine Grace. Lakshmi Narayan, Lord Vishnu and Mother Lakshmi are always situated in everyone's heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Riddhisher Junatishtati. However, because non-devotees do not realize that Lord Vishnu stays with his eternal consort Lakshmi within the hearts of all living entities, they are not endowed with the opulences of Lord Vishnu. Unscrupulous men sometimes address a poor man as Dridha Narayana, or poor Narayana. This is most unscientific. Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi are always situated in everyone's heart, but this does not mean that everyone is Narayana, especially not those in poverty. This is a most abominable term to use in connection with Narayana. Narayana never becomes poor, and therefore he can never be called Dridha Narayana. Narayana is certainly situated in everyone's heart, but he is neither poor nor rich. Only unscrupulous persons who do not know the opulence of Narayana try to afflict him with poverty. Om Gyanturanyasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Nilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master is kindly opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Let us offer respectful obeisances unto him again and again. We request each of you to offer a prayer, to pray to Krishna, to bless us. What we have to say here is only what we've heard from Guru and Shastra, with nothing distorted and no inappropriate motivation. We're here to hear the words of Scripture, to hear what Krishna has offered, that Srila Prabhupada has presented to us. We do this as an offering to the Lord. By attending the classes of Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many benefits, but the best thing is that we're pleasing Lord Krishna by being here, to step back and just look at the story as an overview, these are instances of instructions given by a caregiver. Shakyamuni is acting as a caregiver, and each of you is called to be a caregiver. Not many present here have children, but if you have a child, you immediately understand this child needs care. We shared before, when I was an undergraduate, I had an employment in an orphanage, child care agency, and my service was taking care of 15 young boys, 8 to 12 years old, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 o'clock at night when they took rest. And I was stunned when I first was introduced to this group. There's like 300 children living in the orphanage, but they were in little groups, little group homes. And one of the kids came up to me and said, "Are you taking care of us?" Just the way that he said it was so profound. I didn't realize I was, the feeling behind that. Because the child knows that my senses are out of control. Especially children like this. Imagine you're in the care of an adult and the adult's senses are out of control. Anger, intoxication, addiction, lust, mental illness. If you're a child and your parent is incapable of giving care, even for themselves, much less helping you, what good is a lifeguard who's drowning? So the child understands, I need care. I need someone looking after me, and especially in a group like that. Sometimes I would think if I wasn't here, these kids would kill each other. Practically, really. In the dining room. Put the knife down. Put the knife down, Somebody has to be there. You're not going to stab him. No, give me that knife. Somebody has to be there. The adult in the room, so to speak, and practically speaking, I wasn't much of an adult at that point. But being placed in the capacity of caring for, even as a referee, what to speak of nourishing, educating, guiding. And this is done out of love. Ultimately, Krishna's love is there for every one of us. Krishna is the ultimate caregiver. And he never leaves us alone, not for a second. He's always looking out for us. I was thinking recently that in different places where I was employed or in educational institution, there were many times when somebody said to me, I'm praying for you. And not being very religious myself, it was striking, and I didn't realize the power of that person who saw that I needed help and was invoking the grace of God to help me to understand the truth and to go in the right direction. Very wonderful that someone is praying for you. And here we are in the care of Jai Jagannath. Really? Yeah. Each of us, we sometimes are in the role of care giver and sometimes in the role of care receiver. And it's a very wonderful, consoling, childlike feeling that somebody loves me, somebody cares for me, somebody's calling me out of the darkness, out of the dream, the nightmare that I'm absorbed in, and trying to help me go to the light and help me to move toward Krishna and not be bound up, Prabhupada said, bound up by the modes of material nature. Without the loving care of the spiritual master, we'd be lost. I can remember that feeling before coming to the movement that I was wondering who I was looking up to. I didn't feel the degree of trust in the political leaders or even in some of the professors in the university who were or at least we didn't feel inspired to totally trust them, right? Much less obey them, because they're incapable of giving care. What does it say? No one should become
A father,
a father,
teacher, spiritual master.
a spouse, a teacher, a government official, counselor in any capacity, unless they are prepared to deliver their children, their spouse, their constituents from repeated birth and death. The caregiver who does not, the teacher who does not take the responsibility to speak Krishna's truth to them, point the way, suggest, request, instruct them about the goal of life, then he takes on the karma of those children. Right? There's a connection there. And each of you, many of you will become parents, become mothers, fathers, teachers, guru. We are in the care of our spiritual master. He's fully competent to help us get free from the cycle of birth and death. So here, Shakyamuni, there are many details in the story, but the principle, the underlying, the foundational principle, is that someone is offering instructions to uplift someone who may not have a very high level of understanding of what is good and right and appropriate. I'd like to hear from any and all of you about your experiences, either some that you've witnessed or some that you've experienced directly, being a caregiver or someone who's receiving care. All of you have parents. All of you have had teachers. Who is caring for you? No hurry. I can remember, just to give you an example, working in a child care agency, there's one newly arrived child named Tommy Trina. And from where our group home area was located, with upstairs bedrooms, dining room, kitchen, you could see through the doors and then a hallway and then down through another set of doors in the hallway, a place where one of the administrators' offices were. And many times we'd see a social worker or a police officer or both bringing a child there to be admitted into the child care agency. And I can remember this boy, Tommy Jarina. And somehow the social worker brought him in, said, "Sit here, Tommy," and sit on the bench outside the administrator's office. And the social worker went into the office to do paperwork or whatever they do. And then the boy stood up, and he was looking around. And I could see by the way he was standing, just by his bodily language, that he feels there's nobody there for me. On the other hand, when you see a child who has good parents, even if they're engaged in some frivolous activity or whatever, they know, my father is here, my mother is there. There's somebody who's watching over me and concerned for my welfare. And they have a clear aura and a relaxed and confident nature because of that caregiver's presence. And in that situation, I bring this up, I've mentioned it before, but for me it was a direct and profound experience. Even like, we would play baseball, do these different things, and go swimming, I would take them on field trips places, and sometimes we would sit and watch television. And these are like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old boys. And I would sit down, and there'd be like 3, 4, 5 of them, and some of them would just be holding onto my shirt. A 10-year-old kid doesn't do that, They're just so glad that there's somebody there. They appreciate the fact that someone, by God's grace, is here for me. And they don't want to lose you, So we want to hold on to to the spiritual master like that. Prabhupada said, hold on to my dhoti. We're going home. Come on, somebody, give me some experiences. When you felt cared for or didn't feel cared for or saw somebody caring for somebody else. What kind of experiences did Krishna give you?
You should narrow the question. Narrow the question. Narrow it down.
I can't hear you.
Make your question more specific. This way we'll get more.
Did someone care for you?
Yeah.
Did you see someone care for somebody else? Did you ever feel like, nobody loves me, I'm going to go out and eat worms?
Hare Krishna.
This girl, okay.
Okay, I feel cared for by a community of devotees. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't have that before. I've had close friends, but not people that would care for me in that way. So I feel really fortunate because I never feel alone. And there's so many situations where I can't really see things clearly for myself. So it's really nice to be able to get guidance and from people that could see things clearly.
So you felt that. And your friends, as much as they wanted to be your friend, if they didn't know what was good for you, if they didn't have wisdom, if they didn't have guru, if they didn't know scripture, factually speaking, they couldn't help you. And that'd be hard. Oh, okay, you're next, Kevin. Caregiving, you wanted to say something? No? Kevin, you're next.
Yeah. So I worked as a social worker for 5 years of my life, and it was the first 3 years or so I had not found the devotees yet, and the last 2 years is when I started. And it was a very interesting process because as a social worker, one falls into this place as a caregiver. You're helping people through this process. I was specifically working in eviction prevention and in courts where people are so scared to lose their homes, essentially. And many people would lose their homes. But one thing that I realized during this, I got, as most social workers do, I got very burnt out very quickly.
Right.
And I realized once I found the devotees, I realized, how can I give care to these people if I myself am not receiving deep spiritual care?
Right.
If I myself am not connected to a community of love and truth? Because many times a lot of my other friends who were social workers, they were just, okay, I'm burnt out, so I'm going to go drink it away, or I'm going to go smoke
I've
it
seen
away,
that.
etc.
Right. Burnt.
Completely
They turn
burnt.
brown around the edges and start curling up, right?
Exactly.
Friday.
Exactly.
Right? I'm serious. I've seen that so many times. Nurses,
Yeah.
addiction counselors,
Yep.
psychologists has a great rate of suicide among
Yeah.
psychologists because they're reaching out to people who are in darkness. And if they don't have the spiritual underpinnings and connection to Guru and wisdom and to grace of God, we're letting Krishna work through us. You take a pitcher of water and you pour it out and then it's empty. But if you turn the faucet on, it's connected to a huge reservoir and you can just run that faucet all day long. So if you're connected to that reservoir of grace, sometimes we say, is grace a liquid, a gas? Is it what is it? What is grace? It's this tremendous empowerment and love that Krishna gives us. That Krishna gives a parent the mantle. They call it a mantle. It's kind of like a chadar. It's an empowerment that Krishna gives you when he puts you in the capacity of a caregiver. If we turn to Krishna, he can power us unlimitedly, beyond our own capacity. Yosef, we have a feeling you wanted to say something. No? You don't have anybody who cares for you? Never saw anybody care for anybody? Come on.
I think this is wants to say something.
Oh, no, nobody cares for me.
I see devotees caring for each other a lot here. I think personally, in my own life, I never really had a positive male role model, and I think that's something that I've really developed here with a lot of different devotees, Vera and a few others, Arjuna Prabhu.
Vera is like Krishna's love personified, right? He's caring for all of us. It's wonderful.
Right. mean, I see these really positive examples of, you know, positive masculinity and how to actually be a Krishna conscious male and care for each other in that way. So just grateful for that.
That care is manifest on a subtle level by somebody who sees the truth and speaks the truth, right? And then is living the truth, and then is giving, reminding us of the truth, you know, by their personal example, and engaging us. There was one teenage young Indian kid, and he was helping us with the meal distribution for the homeless Christians, Purusha distribution. And I have a photograph of him in the kitchen, just, you know, fired up, and I could see he was protected. His senses were engaged. Now, not very long ago, a couple years ago, he blew his face off with a gun. You know, here in New York, it's right on the edge. You're either on the boat or off the boat. And if you're off the boat, senses and mind are uncontrolled. You know, you'll be dragged to states of consciousness that are, you know, untenable. You know, you just can't go on. Physical pain is one thing, but sometimes people like jump out a window, or, you know, like this kid blew his brains out with a gun, take poison. I personally know 3 devotees. One of them was initiated with Radha Swami, very dear to Radha Swami, named Taru. I know 3 devotees, in the course of the last 45 years of my devotional service, who I saw them slipping away from strict sadhana, saw them becoming a little peripheral with their, you know, association with devotees, or even offensive, and they all took their own life. The devotee I worked with for the first 4 years in devotional service, Ambaresh Guru, leading kirtan, giving class, maintaining the cow protection program. He was the person there, and I mean, he was just fantastic. And then I was traveling for about 13 years in this country, so I was away from his direct association. He was living at Vrindavan, and I came back one time and they told me that he killed himself. The 2 young children, you know. It's the razor's edge. It's like walking on a tightrope. You can be there, but if you don't pay attention and stay close to this guru, and stay close to the truth, it's very easy to slip and fall, and it's a long way down. Of course, Krishna never lets you go completely. But the manifestation of somebody taking their own life is just so intense. It's just so, I mean, when you know somebody and you work with them. Taru and I used to milk cows every morning and evening. And he'd be on one side of the cow and I'd be on the other side of the cow. We'd milk 6 cows each every morning and evening. And he was a walking Bhagavatam. I mean, he just knew Shastra like anything. He had tremendous, you know, blistering hot kirtans. He was, you know, really like fixed. Like I said, very dear to Radha Swami. God brothers became initiated to the same fire sacrifice. And you're just like, it's so sobering, you know, my goodness, you know, is that possible, you know? Can we actually, you know, go that far out of line that Maya will cover us over to the point where we just feel hopeless and destroy our body? You know, you know, we have to understand, this is a genuine possibility. Maya never sleeps. What's his name? Devananda says, you know, before you get up in the morning, Maya got up already, took her shower, chanted all around, said she's waiting for you. Right? She doesn't take a day off, she doesn't take a coffee break. She's on it. Right? Step out of line, she got you. That's her job. You know? So when we're sober like that, we realize the essence of being in the care of the spiritual master and the devotees, and the reality of the situation. Krishna is caring for us. Ken, caregivers, give a microphone.
Yeah, I think like a few people have said.
People can hear you if you speak clearly into the microphone.
Like a few people have said already, just the community of devotees. It's amazing to me that, just like, you know, technology that we have now, whenever I find myself in a situation, I can just tap a few numbers and get an answer to a question, or, you know, a reference to something in Shastra, or, you know, just being around people. I've never really been trust that I do, I think, you know, with people here, that people are real genuine and sincere, you know, and you get that by being exposed to them, being around them. You can see, okay, this person has something that I want to know more about, and you know, you can kind of tap into that. And I think everyone that I've approached has always been very open and very receptive to wanting to share with me whatever that they've experienced.
Right.
So
It's tangible. It's available. It's essential. Like life's breath. Association of devotees. Yarana who asked me to give a class, I think it was on, he broadcasted online about japa. Well, Krishna continue to bless you with pure love of God. We're all chanting. We're all chanting japa. Sometimes japa can become kind of mechanical or dry. And the Krishna seemed to give me to share with him was that if we're chanting, I remember once somebody told us that Srila Prabhupada, before he came to the United States, he was at Advaita Acharya's temple. And the Pujari said that he saw this elderly devotee in the back, and he was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And he was like, wow, this is really, and he inquired from him, and Prabhupada said, well, my guru asked me to go to the West, and I'm praying that I might take up his instruction and, please him. So, if we're chanting, there's an underlying consciousness for the benefit of others. I haven't been doing this lately, but I used to, each mantra I would like to think, show me how to serve Jajagan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Show me how to serve Him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And there's serve my children, my spouse, I used to pray for each member of our community. It's good to pray for someone. The different ways people pray: adoration, when you're glorifying the Lord as a prayer; contrition, when you're confessing and feeling sorry for shortcomings or misgivings; thanksgiving. Thank you, Krishna, for everything. And then supplication, when we pray to the Lord for empowerment, how to help someone else. We have the bed and breakfast guest program that's been going on for almost 18 years now. And so we always have guests staying with us. And just like it says, you shouldn't become a teacher unless you're prepared to deliver your children. Birth and death, these people are in our care. Even briefly, a few days, a week. And we're hoping not to just, okay, here's the money, here's your key, here's your mobile. We're hoping to actually touch their hearts. But before we bring a guest in, we instruct all the hosts, like, let them sit in the dining area, go in the office, close the door, kneel down, put your head on the floor, offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada or your spiritual master, and pray, please show us how to care for this person. Please show us how to touch their hearts, that this is not just some business dealing, that we're actually here, willing to die for this person. Not that we want to change them, but we want to change me, so that I can see them the way you want me to see them, speak to them the way you want me to speak to them, treat them the way you want me to treat them. Right? Caregiving, we can invoke, with burning tears, we can invoke Krishna's assistance and empowerment. And I've seen so many miracles where somebody, I was thinking, I'm never going to get to this person. And then Krishna opens the door and have amazing conversation, and we invite them, they're here in New York to shop and to play, and we tell them about devotional service, and they come out and they give 2 hours of their full attention of like serving, prashadam, and cleaning up, and, difficult weather conditions. I shared this before. We had one of the devotees, Badarayana Prabhu, spoke to somebody rigid, straight up personality. And his wife told me 2 months after he gave the donation, he would sit up in bed at night. I can't believe I gave that guy money. I just can't believe it. He just couldn't get out of his head that he'd given this donation and gotten this book. And his wife told me. So I told him, well, why don't you call him up? So of course, but I gives him my phone number. So he called me up, and this is a lawyer. I don't know. These guys make $250, $300 an hour. They're fully engaged in fruitive activity according to their line of work. And he and his wife came out and helped with prasad distribution. I told him, come and see, come and see, come and see. You can put the food on the plate. You can look into the eyes of the person who's receiving this. We're really doing this. So he came, it was pouring rain. They got soaking wet setting up the tent and served out prasad and served out everything in the pouring rain. And they got soaking wet taking the tent down. You know what it's like. Sometimes it's real circus out there. And they came back to the kitchen and he said, and they ate prashadam like anything. And the guy said, I just didn't expect it to be that good. He said, I thought maybe they're doing something, but I didn't expect it to be that good. And his wife said, he never does anything like this. He never does anything like this. And then he came and he experienced engaging in devotional service, and that trust that he had put in someone became reinforced. And they gave another donation, took another book, and we're praying for them. And Krishna opens the door. Somebody very unlikely. They have their walls up. In the material world, everybody's exploiting everyone else, eating each other alive. Who can you trust? Who really cares? Who's not out for themselves? Who's just trying to get something from you? Or somebody who's caring for you. Please, experiences, caregiving. The yoga teachers, their heart goes out to these students, right? Oh, Kevin. He spoke to it. Caregivers or people you've seen giving care or experienced people caring for you. Here's a caregiver, right?
Experiences of
If you talk,
caregiving?
then they can hear you at home. Yeah.
In what context?
Has anybody cared for you, or have you experienced trying to care for others, or seen somebody care for others
Yeah, it's
in
reciprocal.
Krishna service?
Yeah, in Krishna service, I always think of Arjun Prabhu, obviously, always there, 24 hours. And then just seeing also the, Vera, Diana, and Shan, and the care that they give.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible.
Good
It's
heart.
extending, and watching that continue to grow day by day. It's incredible. Appreciating Vera leaving today, going somewhere. Vera's leaving today, going somewhere, and just the affection that flows
Right.
from his heart, so
It's
powerful.
Krishna's love flowing through them,
Yeah.
like a river. She's jumping out of her seat. Give her the mic. What do you have to say? Come on. I always picture you like standing up and down when you're talking, like jumping up and down with your enthusiasm.
I was just meditating on when Lord Chaitanya says, I have so many fruits, how many can I eat myself? Because really, I'm appreciating your class so deeply because the whole practice of Krishna consciousness is giving and receiving care. Prabhupada said, accept what I've given you and give it to others. And I think that that's the natural, I said I think again, you really are instructing us. It's the natural result of receiving care from our spiritual master that we spontaneously, naturally want to give it to others.
The heart is overflowing. Right?
Yeah, and if that's not happening, then that means that we're not deeply receiving, because the result of receiving is wanting to give. So I was
like a burning desire to give. I just received this beautiful message from a devotee in college this morning about just so deeply seeing the other people that she's going to college with suffering and wanting to help them. And I was meditating on my own life. The first person that comes up for me is the beautiful devotees at the DC temple that really gave inconceivable amounts of care to me. Particularly, so many devotees, but particularly Mother Rukmini really stands out too. I'll just give one example of how inconceivable she is, and I lack gratitude for her, and I lack reciprocating with her every single day, which is a huge failure of mine. But I was going through actually a critical illness, and she was so there for me, and even took me to Gitanagari for a retreat with Radhanath Swami, and would say, oh, I can't give class, I'm only here to take care of this devotee.
Wow.
And we stayed at the institute in the basement, and I remember we got there, and she quickly, there was a mattress on the floor, and then there was a bed, and she quickly got down on the mattress on the floor and put her face mask on and was like, I'm going to bed. And I said, what are you doing? You're my senior. You have to sleep on the bed. I have to sleep on the floor. And she wouldn't allow me. She wouldn't allow me. She slept on the floor and she forced me to sleep on the bed out of her care and her concern. And just the things that she would do are very, very inconceivable, and just being there. Of course, like, you know, almost to the point sometimes of I would be like, this is too much care, like, can we just chant Hare Krishna, you know? And recently I had a very nice experience, and Krishna gives us all these very encouraging experiences in our life of when we do care for someone by Krishna's mercy, and then we don't know what happened to that person, but Krishna always takes care. There was a girl visiting here, and I was like, I've seen her somewhere, and she came up to me and she said, I know where I know you from. The DC temple I came, it was my first time ever Hare Krishna temple, and you took care of me, and you held my hand, and you took me up to the deities, and you showed me darshan, and you had lunch with me, and you connected with me, and then you got me my Uber, and then you sent me off, and you just like took care of me, and I became a devotee. And I remember after that girl left thinking like, I wonder whatever happened to that girl, she was so sincere, you know. But you just trust that Krishna takes care, and then sometimes he gives you these moments of like, wow, we have no idea that when we give someone care, what is then going to happen.
Right. Like planting a seed, it can grow into a great big tree. Well, anyone else? The husband is supposed to care for the wife in this story. We have a girl who came to us homeless. She got initiated by Radhanath Swami a few years ago, and she's been writing to me emails from, I think she's in Vrindavan now. She said, you know, I'm looking for, I have my spiritual master, and I'm thinking about accepting a husband. And I realize I need protection. She said, I need protection from my real enemy. What is that? The mind. Sometimes we neglect to understand that, you know, bandharatma manastasya. If one has controlled the mind is the best friend. If not, the mind is the greatest enemy. And we control the mind by adding that other voice to our life. You know, the voice of the devotees, the guru, the shastra. And we are protected by knowing what is the truth, what is appropriate. something to share
Who are you
Yeah.
praying to?
about caregiving? Oh, Saved by the Bell. Okay, we'll go to Shil Prabhupada.